Welcome, sports fans, boys and girls of all ages, to episode number 2 of the Garbage Time Takes podcast. My name is Derek. With me, I have to my right is Bobby.
Bobby.
And to my left, Dennis.
That's right, it's Dennis.
And for anyone who missed the first episode, we're just some college guys who enjoy talking about sports from the Midwest at Central Michigan University. And we talk about sports all the time, so we figured why not share it with the world. So if anyone else has...
Very raw.
It is very raw.
But we are so excited. Episode 1 had a great reception, and we are just ecstatic to get started on this week in sports.
Up and coming.
Yeah, you can find us on Spotify at Garbage Time Takes. You can find us on iTunes, also at Garbage Time Takes, I believe.
And
we are also
YouTube.
We are also on YouTube. We publish the audio to YouTube, so if you'd rather watch there, more than welcome, at Garbage Time Takes. And we also stream from Podbean as well at Garbage Time Takes. Believe
You
it or
guessed
not.
it.
Exactly. So we are not rated 5 stars on iTunes yet. So if you'd like to be the first, you should do that because you'll be a groundbreaking individual. So
And please drop a like or a comment. Just
Yeah.
tell us if you have any topics that you think we should discuss.
for sure.
Absolutely.
We're always trying to throw something together. With a busy schedule at the last second. And so we're hoping that, if you guys come up with some ideas for us, that would really ease the pain.
Yeah, we'd more than love to get some help if there's some special topics any of you in the audience would like us to talk about. So, getting started. Finally, college basketball has returned and is back and among us.
Hallelujah.
How are you guys feeling?
I'm very excited for this
Hallelujah.
season. Very excited.
I know MSU, that is Bobby's favorite team. If you watched the first episode, you remember that. Number 1 ranking preseason favorite to win it all. And what did they do, Bobby?
We suffered a defeat, but not surprisingly, we always seem to come out and lose our opener. But we were playing the number 2 team in our defense.
Yes, you were.
And I'm by no means taking this loss in a tight game as a defeating negative attitude for the season.
And you definitely didn't play that great. I think you were, 4 of 25 or some ridiculous stat like that from 3. I believe you missed 21 threes. Turnovers were an issue. And Tyrese Maxey, the biggest issue, if I do say so myself.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of talent on that Kentucky
basketball team,
and on that roster, and they are loaded. They're young. And it was a good matchup for our guys. We do have some veteran experience, but we also have a lot of young guys that we're trying to bring into the fold as well. I was not really encouraged to see that we had a lot of turnovers, knowing that is kind of been the bane of our existence in the past.
Yeah. Cassius Winston did not play all that great either.
Did put up over 20 points for us in a not great performance.
Yeah, that's true.
Which you do love to see.
Yeah.
Even being able to produce on a night that wasn't your best. But I'm expecting this team. It's Tom Izzo team. They'll get into it. They'll bounce back. This is just kind of. We'll give a few teams a couple of resume-building wins, and then we're going to start to accrue some for ourselves.
Yeah, I think what you ended up seeing was just how much of an impact Matt McQuaid and Mr. Goins had last year. Kenny Goins.
Crucial.
I think, just the roles they played them extremely well, and some new guys are going to have to fit into those roles for MSU to be successful on the season for sure. Dennis, your UC Bearcats were also in action versus
Yikes.
Ohio State.
They were. They opened up with ranked Ohio State.
That's right.
It's definitely an interesting transition this year for the Cincinnati Bearcats, losing head coach Mick Cronin, bringing in new head coach John Brannon, former head coach of the Northern Kentucky Norse. And so a lot of interesting things along those lines. Mick Cronin, a very defensive-minded guy. He always built this team around defense and trying to win with defense, and so a lot of questions about what that was going to look like this year with John Brannon stepping in.
Also playing in the extremely weak American Conference.
Chronically.
If there's one thing you're going to get out of this podcast, it's going to be mine and Bobby's disdain for the American Conference and how unbelievably weak we believe it actually is.
And me trying to defend it to no avail.
That's right.
So, anyway, John Brandon had a good start, but lots of questions about what kind of style he was going to bring to the Bearcats this year. Was he going to stick with trying to keep things defensive-minded and follow the footsteps of Mick Cronin, so to speak, or were we going to see a lot more offense? And based on their performance Wednesday night, not a lot of offense to speak of. Jaron Cumberland.
I thought he was supposed to be your guy, Dennis.
He's the guy, and he put up 13 points, and he was the leading scorer. And so that's not a lot of offense
Yeah, you
to
can't
speak
have that.
of. We did keep the Ohio State Buckeyes to, I believe, 64 points. But nevertheless, when you only put up 56, you're not going to win in the NCAA. So you really got to start putting up some numbers, and I'll be interested to see as the season progresses what John Brandon does to maybe modify that, and if we see some higher point totals.
Yeah, and then for me, big debut for Juwan Howard coming back to coach his alma mater, OG member of the Fab Five. For those out there that remember him, I do not. I was not born at the time, but the highlights told me all that I need to know. I'm very excited for this year. John Beilein laid down a great foundation for this program after building it up from the ashes that was, the back end of Steve Fisher's tenure. Just everything kind of falling apart. And it took some time. But
should still be there.
Yes, exactly. And so I think, just the way it seems like it's been a seamless transition so far, going from Beilein to Howard. I know the players really enjoy how Howard is more of a player's coach, lets them, break the offense a little bit. Definitely saw a change in pace from years past. Beilein was a very methodical, offensive guy, wanted to get the best shot possible. And a lot of times we ran the shot clock down under 7 seconds. The majority of our possessions in this game, we were taking a shot before, the clock hit double digits. It was really great to see us get out and run in transition. I had not seen that in a very long time, unless the players took it upon themselves last year to really push it, but that wasn't really a focus for us. But, it was the first, 25 minutes of that game were absolutely perfect. We played really well. John Teskey was a focal point, and I think we're going to see that throughout the rest of the year.
They need a large dose of John Teskey, as I told you when watching the game.
Yes, you did. John Teskey is going to, Juwan Howard with his profile of being able to develop big men in the NBA. I think John Teskey is going to really take some leaps and bounds this year. Could be my dark horse candidate for Big Ten Player of the Year, might I add. Cassius Winston in the mix and a lot of other talented guys in the rest of the Big Ten. But I think John Teskey, you better remember the name because he's going to be popping up in the box score. He had a double-double before halftime, I'm pretty sure. I'm seeing the Zeke feed me sign over here for my co-host, and that's right. Feed the man. Him. Just keep feeding him in the post, and I think everything's going to be fine. Xavier Simpson is going to...
Did not play well.
He did not play well at all. Him and Isaiah Livers both. I'm really expecting a big jump from Isaiah Livers this year. And, Simpson and Livers struggled in the turnover department. Simpson didn't really contribute scoring. It was a bit of a rough showing from our veteran leaders there outside of John Teskey. We have a really young team, a lot of guys who only played sparse minutes last year. Eli Brooks, Adrian Nunez, David DeJulius, Colin Castleton, all those guys are going to really have to step up this year if this team wants to succeed. And it was a promising sign. You hate to see...
The game get close late.
Yeah, you hate to see, the cold spells that plagued us in each and every one of our games last year. It was... watching the game was like, oh, when's our next 4 to 7 minute drought going to hit? And sure enough, it hit us in the second half and allowed App State to make this a nail biter, much more close than it should have been. But, first game, definitely going to experience some growing pains with this team. I've got them finishing 5th, maybe 6th in the Big Ten at the end of the year, just because there's a lot of veteran talent in the other teams in the Big Ten. MSU for sure, Purdue, Wisconsin, Maryland, Ohio State. All those teams are going to be able to bring it. Even some people talking about Nebraska, Minnesota. So the Big Ten is really deep this year in basketball, just as it always is. and I think it's going to be an exciting year. And yeah, I was happy to see what I saw from the Michigan basketball team.
Yeah, I think Michigan. I think they'll be higher than what you even think they will be.
I don't know about that.
I think that there's some of these teams that are a little bit hyped right now that are a little overrated.
Yeah.
I think Purdue will be good. They have a great coach, but I think they'll take a step back from where they were last year.
That's possible.
Minnesota, what have they done for us lately? Not a whole lot. I think Maryland, MSU will be, probably in the mix at the top. After that, I'm seeing a lot of, looking down the line here.
Just a lot of beating up on each other.
A lot of beating up on each other. I think a lot of opportunity for Michigan to steal a lot of games against these teams. I don't think these teams are, on a good night from Michigan. I don't think they're that far away.
Yeah.
I expect to see Michigan competitive at the end of the year. A fourth, maybe even a third place finish.
Yeah, I can. We're definitely not going to get blown out of games this year. I just don't think Coach Howard and the basketball team is going to allow that to happen. But I do think we will see a bit of a step back. Having to replace over 50% of our scoring from last year, new system, new schemes. It takes a little bit of time for all that to transition. So just for me and all of the Michigan fans, just got to be a little patient and understanding with this year, maybe not we reach the Sweet 16.
Oh my God, that'd be a dream come true.
Beeline's teams, have a penchant for really turning it up in late February, going into March into the tournament, and I would expect, since we kept Sadi Washington, from Beeline's staff to really keep that train moving forward. Dennis, what about you and the Bearcats? What do you think, your final season outlook looks like?
Yeah, this is a team that's been pretty dominant within what my co-host would call a weak American Conference over the last few years.
That's right.
Making the tournament in the last several. And so kind of a little bit of a setback with the loss of Mick Cronin. His tenure was really a great time in UC basketball, and I think we'll definitely also experience some of those growing pains as we transition into the John Brannon era. However, it's still the American Conference, and so you've got one ranked team in the Memphis Tigers.
Watch out for Memphis.
So it will be interesting to see how Memphis does. Pretty irrelevant in the American the last few years. I know UC has not had any trouble handling the Tigers the last couple, but
Penny's bringing them back, baby. Penny's bringing them back.
So this will be really, really interesting.
Oh my God.
Penny Hardaway bringing the top recruiting class.
Absolutely.
He's going to bring them back to relevancy. UC, watch out. American Conference week.
I'm looking down the list. I always beat up on the American Conference, but I think it may be fair to admit now that I've never really known which teams exactly
the addition of Wichita State has really helped basketball.
Indeed.
Yes.
Which teams exactly have been in the American Conference? I've more just been beating up on them just because I don't have really much respect for anything out of the conference outside the Big Ten.
Zero.
But looking down the list, they may be worse than I thought.
Good Lord. No respect for the Houston Cougars?
Zero.
Respect?
No.
None. What about ECU? Good Lord. Good Lord. Tulane gonna get rolled.
Every conference has got some pushover teams.
Even Rutgers could beat ECU and Tulane, though.
That'd be an interesting matchup.
Although Rutgers did almost lose to some D2 team last night.
UCF in Taco Fall is not there anymore, so they're gonna be falling off.
Yeah, that's true.
The UCF will not be quite as good as they were last year.
USF folding like a steel chair. I'm not expecting much production. I'm expecting Cincinnati to go for an American title or bust this season.
I think barring the games with Memphis, I think the Cincinnati Bearcats should finish in the top of this conference. I have them projected as finishing second behind Memphis.
Okay.
I just don't see another team that could really trip us up in this endeavor. It's just a weak conference. Maybe Houston. But I really don't have a lot of respect for Houston this year.
You heard it here first. Dennis just did indeed admit that the conference is weak this year.
Oh, man. Did I say that?
You did.
Man.
You did say that.
Just this year.
How did I say that?
Because deep down in your heart that's true. So, so Dennis, just one more thing about UC. And then I'll get around to Bobby as well. Where do you think the Cincinnati Bearcats come up seed-wise in the NCAA tournament?
In the NCAA tournament, I mean, it really depends. It's going to depend on those Memphis games. If we can snag a couple against them, they keep their ranking. Those are going to look really good. We also have, I believe it's the third toughest non-conference schedule.
That always looks good. You can snag a couple of
this
those.
This year, obviously we fell to the ranked Ohio State, but let's look down the line here. And
I mean, if they have a third toughest non-conference schedule, that's not going to help them in the win department.
Sure. You definitely got to be able to pull in a couple wins.
That's the question. Well, you always got the crosstown shootout with Xavier, who's.
I'm hoping to see another fight.
The good old Yancey Gates. That was a
saga.
Fun time. That was a fun time. But in terms of ranking, I think they can squeeze out a couple of these non-conference ranked opponents, as well as hopefully being able to beat Memphis at least once. So I would put them more in the middle of the road. I'm going to go with an 8-9 seed. They're probably going to get one of those 8-9 games. I don't remember a time that they were ever lower than that. 2 years ago, I believe it was, we were pretty dominant, got the 2 seed, and then completely choked. In the second round, we were way up on Nevada, and then
blew it.
Completely lost it. It was
absolutely.
a 26-point lead.
The tires fell off.
They completely fell off, and so you really hated to see that. But this year, I'm going to be a little more realistic. I don't think we're going to run the table by any means. Yeah. I would put us at maybe an 8 or 9 seed. So.
Yeah, just looking at UC's out of conference, I should say quickly. You get Iowa right before Christmas, as well as Tennessee and also Xavier. So you're going to be playing 3 really competitive teams there right before conference play starts.
Absolutely.
With Xavier, Tennessee, and Iowa. Bobby, what about you? Does MSU finish the year number 1 overall to start the NCAA tournament?
Absolutely not. I've got
us
right now as a 2 seed.
Do you?
The same last year. That's based on a couple of factors. Number one, the selection committee chronically undervaluing us.
That's true.
They never give us our respect. Even last year, finishing out as Big Ten regular season and tournament champions, really quite handily and undisputed.
I wouldn't go that far. Handily.
With 3 victories.
Undisputed, yes.
Over the Michigan Wolverines during the season, and still coming up short to some of those other teams. And I really thought it was a great. Not to look too much back at last season, but I really thought it was great that Michigan State was able to knock off the Duke Blue Devils.
The only time I've ever rooted for MSU in my life.
Because I just hope that shows the selection committee that they're fraudulent.
Fraudulent.
And
you got to make that bank, baby.
But this year, I expect Michigan State to lose some close ones early. I think during the season we'll pull our weight pretty much in the Big Ten pretty well, but I think we'll trip a few times. This tends to happen when you're playing competitive teams every night, unlike Cincinnati.
Just a shot.
But
you just got to avoid those bad losses.
No, a 2 seed I think is reasonable. I wouldn't think that we would finish any lower than a 4.
Yes, I agree. I think I do have MSU as a 1 seed, maybe not number 1 overall. That'll just be dependent on the way the season shakes out. As for Michigan, I think an 8 seed isn't out of the question. I think you can look at Michigan coming in as anywhere from an 8 to a 10 seed. But just
right on the bubble.
Yeah, they could very well be a bubble team depending on if they take some bad losses and don't generate enough quality Q1, Q2 wins. But they have their non-conference is going to provide them with some opportunity. They got Creighton coming up next week. We also have Louisville in the Big Ten ACC tournament, who's currently ranked number 5. Also got a ranked Oregon team as well. So we'll have our opportunities, and even in the Big Ten too. Purdue's ranked. MSU, obviously, we know what they are. Ohio State, Maryland. The Big Ten's deep this year, so there's going to be plenty of opportunity for them.
Interconference competition.
Yes, and inside the conference to generate some good quality wins. Moving on to college football. Big games this week.
Oh my!
Huge games.
LSU, Alabama, College Game Day. This has definitely got playoff implications.
Oh, absolutely.
This is going to go a long way towards determining, the top 4 And man, it is going to be one exciting game. I'm really excited. I usually don't care much for watching Alabama football unless they're playing someone decent, which isn't very often because the SEC is weak outside of Georgia and in LSU this year. But, I think, at Alabama with Joe Burrow, I think LSU's got a chance. What about you guys?
For me, to put it quite simply, I'm expecting the Tide to roll.
Oh, jeez.
Man, no. I'm expecting Saint Nick, as my good friend Shannon Sharp would call him, to come up with a win. I don't really have any skin in the game. I just think that Alabama will, triumph at a home game.
I just don't think Alabama's been tested enough this year yet to really, when they face adversity, unlike LSU. LSU has played a couple, marquee games that tested their limits and them as a team. I haven't seen Alabama do that. Tua hasn't really been the healthiest this year, and Joe Burrow and LSU's offense is just on a tear. The whole entire team is playing really well. Coach O, by far one of the greatest coaches in college football. The man's an absolute beauty.
Without a question.
Man's an absolute beauty. But prediction-wise, I'd have to take LSU here. I really like what I've seen out of LSU this year, but I'm also not sleeping on Bama because you can't do that.
No.
But it's just something about this year feels like there may be a shakeup in the top four, and we may not see Alabama Clemson another year.
Oh yeah, LSU wins over at number 9 Texas.
Yeah.
Versus number 7 Florida. Now unranked, of course, yes, but beating Auburn last week, and 2 weeks ago that was. So I also believe in the Tigers here.
And they beat Florida too.
They did. They beat 7th ranked Florida by a significant margin. They beat them by 14 points, and so I think that I say boo to the rolling Tide.
Yes.
Perhaps it's a little biased, and I can't bet against Bama. You just can't really do that, but I do expect the LSU Tigers to put up a fantastic performance, and I expect them to pull out a victory.
Yeah, it's going to be an excellent football game. And speaking of another game of unbeatens, Penn State versus Minnesota.
Who thought we'd be talking about this?
PJ Fleck has got Minnesota. He's got Minnesota undefeated, although they haven't played any competition up to this point so far, which is exactly why College Game Day is not going there. So I'm sorry, PJ Fleck. Not only is it because you coached at Western Michigan that I don't like you, but it's also that because I think Minnesota is chronically overrated.
Jerseys are nice, though.
They do have some sick unis, but I think, I don't think Minnesota has even a hope or a prayer. And believe me, I'm not even that high on Penn State either.
Nope.
I don't think either of those two teams are playoff teams by any means.
Nope.
But Minnesota just hasn't played a lick of competition up to this point. And, in their first real test, I expect Penn State to probably wipe the floor with them. I'm
expecting almost in my mind, I'm thinking maybe a 3-score game.
Yeah, it very well could be a 17-point victory. I don't think home field. Of course, Minnesota's going to be rocking, but I really don't think it's going to make a difference if Penn State comes down and drops 14 on you before you even found your seat.
Imagine those. Just imagine a scenario in which the Golden Gophers pull this out.
It would be insane.
What does that mean?
It would be insane.
They would shoot up in the college football playoff.
It would be incredible.
They're already in the driver's seat, for the Big Ten West.
Yep,
they've got Wisconsin, I believe, still to come.
They do.
And I believe Iowa.
Yes.
So they're currently in the driver's seat in the Big Ten West. PJ Fleck did some amazing things at Western that year. They went to the Cotton Bowl.
He did.
And so you can't really sleep on Minnesota, but they just haven't been tested by anyone who's got a winning record almost.
You'll find out what they're made of this week.
I'll believe it when I see it.
Yes, exactly. It's definitely, sure they've gotten their wins, but I'm skeptical for now of Minnesota. And speaking of the college football playoff rankings were released during the halftime of the MSU game, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Actually pregame, I believe.
Was it pregame?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, either way, they were released Monday night for the first time, and it was interesting, to say the least. What do you guys think?
I think that, to speak on Minnesota again, they were in 17th. They were 8-0. I think that may be a little high. They will by no means be anywhere near that if they lose. They will be gone. The Cincinnati Bearcats make an appearance, number 20.
I did, yes.
Don't expect them to move from that spot much. With Memphis right on their tail end.
Yeah, the American basically played themselves out of the college football playoff with SMU losing to Memphis last week. They pretty much all but eliminated themselves.
Yeah. Cincinnati does get Memphis later in this year.
They do,
that
and so
will be quite a matchup.
It will be, I'm sure, an absolute battle in the American Conference. So
I sense a little bit of sarcasm from my colleagues
not just a little bit of sarcasm. That's dripping with sarcasm.
A little bit of sarcasm.
But top 4: Ohio State, LSU, Alabama, Penn State. 2 Big Ten teams, 2 SEC teams. Clemson at number 5,
just waiting, licking their chops.
Pretty much. I think the playoff committee was smart in this one. If Ohio State happens to trip up at some point, but still win the Big Ten, maybe they sneak in as the 4 seed in the college football playoff at the end of the year as a 1-loss conference champion. It sets the table for the loser of LSU and Alabama to maybe sneak back in at the end. Clemson's going to obviously jump back in this week because I can't see LSU or Alabama staying in the top 4 if they lose. Georgia's going to have a chance to make a run. And how about the Utes?
I'm ready. I'm so ready to talk about this.
Yeah, go for it.
I'm so ready to talk about this. But, no, I just... It makes me so glad to see a team that, not every year is normally in the mix. Because, we look down here in the top 10. We've got Ohio State, LSU, Alabama, Penn State, Clemson, Oregon, Georgia, Florida, Oklahoma. Those are all, historically, great teams that, are perennially competing for spots. Penn State may be the least so of the teams that I just mentioned as of late. But, their history certainly indicates that they're perennially competing for national implications. But the Utes, nobody would think of them, and they're right there.
They are right there.
They're right there, number 8, and with none of these teams playing each other upcoming.
Yeah.
In Penn State, they've got they're playing Big Ten schedule, and who knows what if Minnesota does knock them off.
Catastrophic.
The Utes could see themselves looking at a backdoor spot right into the college football playoff, and I think. Especially if they can win their conference championship game against potentially playing Oregon, because that looks like that's going to be on a collision course.
Yeah.
Who's right 1 spot ahead of them. If they can do that, they will, I'm thinking, maybe seal their deal and make it in. But they cannot trip up along the way.
Yeah, definitely. Sorry, Dennis. Their only chance to get in to the college football playoff, I believe, is a 1-loss conference champion. There's just no way around it.
Nope, you're right.
All I want to know, Bobby, is what is a Ute? What? Can you answer that for me? I want to know what a Ute is.
That is a great question. Is it just a person from Utah? Is what I want to know. That's my guess.
That might be what I call it, someone from Utah.
But just speaking, go ahead.
You got an answer?
Yeah. So I just searched what is a Ute, and there's actually an official Utah athletics page on this.
I'm sure they had to create.
They are known as the Utes in honor of the American Indian tribe from which the state of Utah is named.
Okay.
They've inhabited the area of the country, the Utes, the tribe, has inhabited the area of the country for the last 1,000 years, and they were originally known as a different tribe throughout that region, but the Utes were the first American Indians to acquire the horse as a means of transportation, actually.
Very interesting.
Wow. Just looking at the page here, so...
Dropping a history bomb on you in the sports
There
page.
you go. Who would have thought?
A little bit of similar to our own Central Michigan Chippewas.
But if you look at the Utes logo, it's got that, kind of Indian headdress kind of, look to it. That would be why it's there.
Yeah, just going back to the college football playoff rankings as a whole, I was surprised to see Ohio State over LSU just based on the quality of wins LSU has generated up to this point in the season. But you also can't take away from the fact that Ohio State is playing as one of the best and most balanced teams out of everyone. So I really didn't have an issue there. My issue really lies with Notre Dame still even being ranked at this point. We my Michigan Wolverines absolutely wiped the floor with them, and then they needed, last-second heroics to squeak past Virginia Tech at home. And so, I would rather see Minnesota ranked ahead of Notre Dame. I think it's just egregious that Notre Dame's even still
6-2.
Exactly, and they
don't even play in a conference, do they?
No, they don't.
They've lost their two biggest games of the year.
Exactly,
Georgia and
they
Michigan.
they have not beat the two teams that would provide them with the quality wins they need. But looking at Baylor, Baylor in the Big 12, could they sneak in as well if they happen to, knock off Oklahoma and, an undefeated Big 12 champion? I feel like would be hard to keep out of the playoff.
For sure.
All I have to say is let's not look past number 24 in the rankings, the United States Naval Academy.
The Naval.
There's always one.
Baby, come on.
There's always one Navy, Army, Air Force.
We love to see them right in the mix. And
7-1.
And they've got a big matchup actually against Notre Dame in their next match.
That's got some at-large bids for New Year's Six bowl
Written all
implications.
over it. And then SMU following that. So they've got
the Naval Academy's got some chances to prove themselves.
To come up here. I mean, don't be surprised if Navy finishes out highly ranked if they can win out here. I mean, of course, nothing ever surpasses. Maybe in terms of rivalry for me, like that last game of the year, Army versus Navy.
They get their own weekend.
They get their own weekend, exactly.
An entire weekend.
And it should be an absolutely astounding game this year. I mean, Army was making their run last year, and now to see Navy come back and nothing like watching that triple option. A real lost art.
Jeez. Yeah, I know all too well about the triple option after facing Army this year. Darn near gave me a heart attack.
Oh, darn it.
But yeah, don't sleep on the Naval Academy. They're
the United States Naval Academy.
That's right. America. Continuing on, some big games for you two, for MSU and Cincinnati this week. Michigan is on a bye as they prepare for MSU and the next weekend. MSU gets Illinois this week. Illinois, they've been a surprise this year in the Big Ten, looking to finally achieve bowl eligibility. I believe this game against MSU would give them their sixth win. No,
they would.
So MSU, what are you guys right now? Do you have 6 wins?
We are 4-4.
You're 4-4, and you have how many games left? 3.
3, I believe.
So MSU on the brink of missing a bowl game has to be a very impressive Illinois team that's coming off of wins against Wisconsin and nearly upsetting Michigan. Bobby, how are you feeling about the Fighting Illini led by former Michigan quarterback Brandon Peters?
I'm feeling like Brandon Peters could be getting exposed this week.
Ooh.
I'm feeling like the Michigan State Spartans, but had a disappointing season, unfortunately. But I feel like this week is going to be a line in the sand kind of week.
Yeah, you better hope so.
All the stops are going to be thrown out. I've been calling for trick plays, something to spice up the offense. I don't think Brian Lewerke's played that poorly this year. I mean, there
have been some drops from the wide receivers for sure. Wide receiver core has not performed up to their standard.
And our running back core has been depleted, unfortunately.
Yep.
But, I'm expecting Lovie Smith not to be able to, hopefully not being able to throw together a defense against us and us to be able to find the end zone a few more times. I'm expecting all the stops to be pulled out, as I said, and I'm thinking that in a close game, Michigan State squeaks it out.
How does the loss of Joe Bocci impact this team? After getting suspended, it doesn't surprise me. Classic MSU football players doing illegal stuff. Joe Bocci, what happened?
I think the matter of fact is that MSU players normally wait till after they graduate to have the illegal stuff happen. However, this time it was a unfortunate scenario, and I do think that leaves a big vacancy on the defense. But I think the next man up mentality that Coach Mark D'Antonio has will hopefully be crucial in filling that gap, and that I'm hoping we've been pretty successful at finding a line in years past, and I'm hoping this year we can put together another virtuoso, if I might say. If we do not get a victory this week, all I know is that the Michigan Wolverines will be on upset alert the following week. A starving Michigan State team looking
Will they be
for
start-
bowl eligibility, and then a final game against Rutgers to potentially make or break a bowl game.
Really.
Oh.
I was going to ask you, what does this, if you do end up losing, which personally I would love to see it. I really would love to see it as a Michigan fan. What do you think that does for Mark D'Antonio? Will heads roll in the coaching staff? Already people are calling for Mark D'Antonio's head.
No.
Which is a shame just to the way, what he's done for MSU as a program. But at the same time, the man is refusing, to adapt to today's college football, and it's shown in their, horrendous offensive performances throughout the year so far. So I just wanted to know, as a Michigan State fan, how would a loss impact Mark D'Antonio's future, do you think?
I mean, I think a loss would obviously not help his future. But I think that following the season, you will see heads roll that are not Mark D'Antonio.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm a firm believer in Mark D'Antonio. I mean, his process has got us to this point, brought us out of the dark ages of unsuccessful MSU football, being more of a laughing joke in the Big Ten.
Yeah. Making them relevant again.
And making us relevant again, and being one of the only Big Ten teams to ever make a college football playoff.
That's right.
Can't
dispute that.
Being there, a top 4 team in the nation at one point, and that wasn't too long ago. But I mean, obviously, I think our team should be performing better than they are, and I think that offensive coordinator will roll. I think you'll see a lot of offensive staff that'll be getting removed, or I would hope, if he's refusing to make changes after this season.
Which would be mind-blowing.
And which would be mind-boggling. I think, unfortunately, at that point, I may have to start, getting on the train to get rid of him. But I don't think he's that close-minded, and I think he realizes that is a change that needs to be made. But as I said, if we lose to Illinois, there's always a chance to make up the season the week after. The season will not. The season will, in my mind, will not be a complete loss if we can pull it together against the Michigan Wolverines.
And we will be talking at length about that next week.
Yes, next week's episode's fireworks may be exploding in this room next week.
I'm going to have to be holding my buddies back.
Yeah, as we prepare for, the biggest week in Michigan versus Michigan State football. But that's not for this week's discussion.
Indeed.
And moving on, Dennis, UC with an absolutely blockbuster matchup versus UConn.
Oh my God!
The 2-7 UConn Huskies.
Oh my God!
Finding themselves at the very bottom of the American East and 0-5 in the conference.
Oh my God!
What a laughing stock!
This is a game that you just simply cannot have. That's even close.
Yes.
It cannot be close. I would be a very concerned Bearcats fan if it's within 20 points.
Right.
As I was last week when they almost blew it against Eastern Carolina.
Oh, I was hoping.
Which I'm sure that Derek and Bobby will be quick to absolutely obliterate me about.
Holy smokes.
For all of you listening, if you've never heard the ECU fight song,
you better look it up right now.
You should look it up. It's an absolute banger.
It almost was playing loud and
proud. It almost was.
It
was almost playing loud and proud for my iPhone. That is for sure. So,
but
Dennis,
confidence that the Bearcats will pull it out this week against the UConn Huskies. I would be very concerned if they don't, and they will not deserve any sort of ranking or recognition.
And I will be sitting here in a potentially 5-minute monologue in the next podcast talking about how bad the other.
That's why we're just going to rip on it.
I mean, Derek and I will have to issue a soliloquy on that.
Can't lose it this week.
Cannot lose.
And then, turning to the MAC.
Oh yes.
Very huge.
Our hometown team, the Central Michigan University Chippewas, bowl eligible after winning one game last year.
One.
And that one game was not even against a Division I FBS opponent. If that tells you anything about the state of CMU football last year. Coach McElwain has done an excellent job this year.
And I was
no question about it.
I was not expecting this.
No, and I had hope this year. I think you guys remember for our discussion earlier in the year when we were predicting the fates of our college football teams. And I do remember thinking that CMU had a chance to win 6 or 7 games. I thought they could be bowl eligible. And, they far surpassed expectations. They have a chance to win the MAC outright even, in Coach McElwain's first year.
They're in the running.
It's really impressive, and it's great.
Close game against Wisconsin this year?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Close game against Wisconsin.
Well, they played Miami.
But we did play Miami very close. And sure, Miami isn't one of the most prestigious programs this year, but they have some history to them, and it was impressive to see CMU go on the road to Miami. And it was it came down to the last drive of the game, couldn't get it done, but CMU football for the first time in a while is exciting again.
Relevant.
And
Yes.
we're relevant, and we may be having to broadcast live from the MAC championship in a couple weeks if they
That would be huge.
if they if CMU happens to make it that
Big
far.
game
But
versus Ball State.
yes, I think all of us here at CMU really proud of the way we've played this year.
Indeed.
Khalil Pimpleton has been huge for us this year. Quentin Dormady has been huge.
Jonathan Ward.
Jonathan
the
Ward,
next man, just that next
It
man
really was
mentality.
this year.
Especially after our controversy that we had last season at quarterback.
Yep.
To be able to see that get shored up, see our skills positions playing well, a defense is getting after it.
It is just like it was last year. The one thing
Exactly.
about CMU,
Number one in turnovers, I believe.
yes,
last
their
year.
defense last year was not the cause of their problems. It was an absolutely horrible offense
Anemic.
and poor discipline, from the coaching staff. Coach Bonamigo is,
Oh my god.
it's
Oh my god.
it's hard to talk about. After
is.
Take a look at the Lions special team.
Exactly.
You
Take a
understand.
look at my Detroit Lions special teams, which is who we'll be getting to very soon here about all you need to know about Coach John Bonamego. But,
See ya.
we're really excited here at CMU for the Chippewas Bowl eligibility this year. So we definitely just wanted to bring that up, give a big fire up Chips to our fellow
Fire
Chips
up.
out
Big
there.
old fire up.
And moving on to the NFL. They were back in action yesterday with the Los Angeles Chargers going
We're gonna
against
screw
the
that up.
Yeah, we'll screw that up.
going against the future Las Vegas Raiders.
Crazy.
That sounds horrible. Poor Oakland. Phillip Rivers had a chance to lead the team to a drive after a missed extra point from Oakland and proceeded to throw a pick. And
What a
he was
three,
he was
if I
throwing
remember
he was
correctly.
throwing picks all night. Phillip Rivers had a poor performance, really cost the Chargers the game almost single-handedly.
Trying to throw a
I
pick
don't
for
really know
every
what the
kid he
Chargers
has.
are doing this season. I mean, I
It's
don't see where the drop off is.
I don't know either. Melvin Gordon
Back now.
back, Phillip Rivers. You
Beastin'.
expect better out of the guy. Austin Eckler has been a huge bright spot for them, and then defensively they're not that bad. They just beat the Packers.
They did.
They can do it.
And so it's, the Chargers have been an enigma just as much as the Lions have this year.
Oh my god.
Who the Raiders just defeated last week, breaking my prediction
Never
of,
mind.
and everyone's, I think, of, that the Lions would win. Big game versus Chicago this week. I think this is make or break for the Lions. I said it last week, and I'll say it again this week. If they lose to Chicago this week, they might as well just throw in the towel because they're not going to make it as a wild card. The NFC is too good this year to get in as a 9-win wild card. It's not going to happen. You have multiple teams that are already sitting on 6, and the Lions are sitting at 3-4-1, and it's tough. It's tough, and so I think, I say it every week that the Lions can win the game. That's because I believe they can. Matt Stafford's playing out of his mind, having a career year this year.
It's really a shame.
And Matt Patricia, a defensive-minded coach, just has not done anything for the defense. I don't know if it's his fault. I don't know if it's defensive coordinator Paul Pasqualani's fault. But the defenses, they can't stop a nosebleed this year. And it's been really disappointing because after last year where the defense was the bright spot and it was the offense under Jim Bob Cooter that was chronically underperforming, now the offense finally steps up when they need to and the defense can't get the last stop. And so I think this week, the Bears are garbage. Mitch Trubisky is garbage. The defense of the Bears, is good, but I don't think it's as dominant as it was last year. And, I fully expect the Lions to win this game just as I do each and every week. And you can call me insane. You can call me a fool. But, I have faith in this team. And I've expected this team to do better this year. And they've let me down, and it's a shame. Bobby, what do you think?
I've been preaching since the beginning of the season. Prior to the season, when we were talking about how we thought, the season would go for the Lions and, the Bengals. I've been preaching that I thought the Bears, as I refer to them
Yes,
as,
you do.
were absolutely terrible. I know but prior to the season, there were a lot of people that were thinking they would finish the division at number 1.
Yeah, 12-4.
And I was just like, I don't see it. I see a defense that's above average but not elite. I see an offense that's chronically below average. And I said, whoever drafted Mitch Trubisky, if he's not already fired, needs to be done so. For the Bears fans. But the Lions, I mean, really, the game that they should not be losing.
They shouldn't.
Their defense, in the past it's been more of a bend don't break. Bend don't break. But this year it's a bend for 3 quarters. We'll bend for 3 quarters, and then the fourth quarter,
absolutely get snapped in half.
And then exactly, we'll fold like a fresh towel coming out of the dryer.
Well said.
And it's really quite a shame because they always. As they have in years past, they give us hope. They'll show us that they can knock off elite teams,
beat the Chargers, beat the Eagles, play close with the Chiefs and Packers.
Exactly, and then they'll tease us that they can beat those elite teams like the Packers and the Chiefs.
And then what the bet against the Raiders?
And then exactly, they'll play teams that are below average, teams that they should not be losing to, and they'll absolutely get blown off the ball. And it comes down to what I've been saying about the Lions for years, that they don't have winning intangibles.
Right.
A team with a little bit better winning intangibles, more experience in these kind of spots. You got to look at even the veteran leadership for the Lions right now. That's been with the team for a while. They've not been in any any
meaningful
games.
Right.
They've been playing for years, and it's just struggling to see if we can even make the playoffs, and then maybe halfway through the season we'll realize we'll not make it, and then we essentially go into the gutter. Last season it was the opposite.
That's what we should have done.
Started off in the gutter, and then we started to try to win at the end when we could have been getting ourselves a better draft pick. But I digress.
Yeah.
The Lions. They have an identity crisis yearly. I've never seen anything like it. It's like a midlife crisis that happens every year for the Lions.
It is.
They need to, I really don't know what the problem is, because you think it's like a boat that's about to sink. You got a hole here, you patch the hole up, it's working just fine, and then just when you thought you're good, there's a leak that springs on the other side.
That's right.
And just like Derek was alluding to, the Lions' offense last year was seemingly the issue.
Right.
We're able to get much going, and another year where the NFC North really wasn't that good,
and it's not,
and it's still not really that good. And I believe the Packers are fraudulent more than they're letting on.
I think so
Maybe
too.
That's just the Lions fan in me. But this year, when we shore that up, it's not like we can stay consistent. The next year after that, we just fall off the map at the defensive side of the ball. Obviously, as you do every year, you have injuries that set you back, but that's not an excuse for this team.
Right.
It's really just I don't really know what needs to change. I've been saying it's the personnel, and I still believe that it's the personnel that needs to change.
Mm-hmm.
But
the coaching's got to be better too.
The coaching's got to be better too, and exactly, I think we're just we get complacent.
We do.
We make a move or two, we think we're something, and then we stand pat.
Yeah.
And it was nice to see Lions trying to be involved in the Devonta Freeman trade talks.
Yeah. But the fact of the matter is, nothing got done.
Nothing got done, and that's what happens all the time. Lions are never in trade talks, or they're in trade talks and they never get done. Mm-hmm. And then when they do make trades, they trade away players for bags of chips,
and upset the locker room.
Yep. Exactly. They try to bring everybody from the Patriots organization that got exiled to.
Exiled.
They try to bring all the winning coaching that they can. But the fact of the matter is that none of the players have ever been there.
Right.
And it gets tougher and tougher to blame them when that they've never even been in a spot where they've obviously only been maybe to 1 or 2 playoff games in their career, and obviously never won any of those.
Yeah.
So it gets tough. I'm expecting a win this week, but as you know, you'll never know.
You never know with the Detroit Lions. And same thing with the Cincinnati Bengals.
That's true.
Coming up this week with Baltimore, riding high, fresh off a win against New England, which we also predicted wrong last week.
Upset alert.
Dennis, I was sure to hope. I sure hope that you were joking.
I was Sincerely joking.
But it'll be the debut of Ryan Finley.
No, I'm very excited.
You
Absolutely thrilled beyond compare to watch this kid play. Was reading some stuff on him a little bit earlier today, and he's just such a competitor. Competes all the way across the line, and so I'm interested to see how he's going to fare against probably, if you could say, a test, but the toughest team that we're going to play this year, at least to date,
Great time to
the
throw
Baltimore
him in.
Ravens, and so very excited to see what he's able to do. AJ Green will not be.
Yeah, that's got to be a blow.
In the game. There's a lot of controversy. Was he going to play? Was he not going to play? But nevertheless, I think it'll be interesting to see what Ryan Finley does. I'm obviously not expecting to win the football game. I would be incredibly pleasantly surprised if we do.
Pleasantly surprised, Dennis. I think
how
you would
about
be
that for-
ecstatic.
How about that for the first win of the season?
That would-
by far the biggest upset.
How about that for the first win of the season?
That
The
would
6-2 Baltimore
that
Ravens.
sure would be something.
But not expecting that by any means. All I want to see is Ryan Finley take care of the football.
Compete.
I want to see him not throw a lot of interceptions. I want to see him not fumble the ball, avoid sacks when he can, and I just want to see that this kid can compete. And I believe I will see that. And in the end, I think it's just going to be the lackluster offensive line, and as it always is, the defense that's going to lose us this football game.
Drake
And after
He's going to be not playing this week.
Oh, wow, that's
Just
terrible.
officially listed as out for this Sunday. So
Ryan Finley, here's the headline. Ryan Finley has career passing day. Ravens win 34-13. That's what it's going to end up
career
being.
passing day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The Bengals defense is softer than room temperature butter, if I do say so
Exactly.
myself.
Oh, another way to say it.
And Lamar Jackson's going to, you saw what he did to the number one Patriots defense last week. I expect nothing less than that against Cincinnati.
Baltimore might put up 40 points.
If you're playing against the person that has Lamar Jackson this week in fantasy,
Watch out.
I dread you. I feel bad for you, and I pray that you can still pull it out.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll try to rally the troops and at least keep them under a reasonable amount of points.
Line in the sand for the Bengals.
It's gonna be tough.
For those of you who don't know, the reason we bring up the Bengals is because they are Dennis's favorite NFL team. He's
That's
a
right.
Cincinnati guy through and
Faithful.
through. Through and through from,
Wearing a shirt right now.
He is.
Who day, baby? Who day?
Who day? Give me a break. They're garbage, unfortunately, Dennis. But, what can I say about the Lions? They're mediocre, too, and have been
Haven't
for a long
proven
time.
anything.
What do you guys have for predictions this week?
For the Lions-Bears game?
Yeah,
Probably like
Lions-Bears.
2017 or something. We can never
2017.
score against the Bears for whatever reason.
I got like 14-10.
I could see that, too.
14-10?
Dennis,
And I can't believe I'm saying that and I'm not saying that the Lions defense is going to play well. I think
it's
Mitch
just the
Trubisky-
Bears' offense is so bad.
Mitch Trubisky is going to make them look good, and
Yeah.
unfortunately, I'm a little bit scared that the rushing attack from the Bears may get us.
Just absolutely gash us.
The Bears have put up the second lowest amount of points in the entire NFC behind the Washington Redskins.
Yeah,
just
oh my
ahead of the Washington.
Oh my God,
It's atrocious.
Yeah, the
my
Bears are awful. There's no reason for the Lions to lose this game, but it would be totally
It would be totally predictable.
SOL, same old Lions if they do. Dennis, what do you got predictions for Cincinnati this week?
Cincinnati, I'm going to be realistic.
Is 34-13 pretty realistic, or is
34
13 even a bit of a long shot?
I would like to see us get to 13. I'm going to,
42-7.
maybe this is definitely the fandom in me, but I'm going to go 42-20. I think the defense is going to be the biggest weakness.
Yeah.
And I do think that the offense will put up some points. But at the end of the day, we're
You
just not
better
going to be
pray
able
to God they do.
We're not going to be able to compete head-to-head
No.
with the firepower that is Lamar Jackson and Mark Ingram. So it just
Joe Burrow may
It's
be
not gonna
coming
be
into
enough.
the roster
But-
if Ryan Finley does not perform. in his last
42-20
games.
is what I'm going to go with.
All right, and then, big game this week, our last talking point here for the NFL.
Indeed.
The best Monday night game of the year.
By far. No, that's by far.
49ers undefeated versus the Seahawks. This has got not only NFC West, champion implications, but I think NFC Championship game implications.
absolutely.
You very well. This isn't going to be the last time you see these two teams face off. I don't think.
Not at all.
I'm pretty sure they have to play each other again anyway, but that's beside the point. The Seahawks and the 49ers, Russell Wilson having an MVP year, Jimmy G, managing the offense and really letting the defense do most of the work there in San Francisco. It's going to be a heck of a game. I'm excited to see Seattle's dynamic offense, Tyler Lockett, Russell Wilson, Chris Carson going up against Bosa and the 49ers defense. And then the same thing with the Seahawks defense. You know, they're no pushovers. They're not the greatest, but San Francisco leads a pretty strong rushing attack with Tevin Coleman and Matt Breida. So I think, you know, this has got, you know, playoff implications for sure. What do you guys think?
I just want to know what's happening in San Francisco. Like,
oh, yeah?
I just want to know what's happening. I was not at all
expecting
this.
Let's preface Dennis's
comment.
comment.
Let's bring it up.
Dennis, in the beginning of the year, said that the Cincinnati Bengals, there was no chance.
No chance.
No chance that the Bengals would lose to the 49ers. And
I'm just absolutely astounded by
that. Was the farthest thing from the truth.
We got trounced.
Dennis, I think, was overestimating his favorite team's ability to play football, if you can even call it that at this point, as even the Miami Dolphins have a better record. But I digress.
I'm just the big concern for me, and obviously, I mean, we have no association to any teams in this game. But, you know, I'd like to see Russell Wilson get it done for the mere fact that I think that it would be so helpful in his MVP campaign. And
he's a great guy.
He's a great guy. You know, and I like Jimmy G too. No problem with him. I've got
Gucci Garage, baby.
I've got a little bit of concern though. My main concern is for the Seahawks defense this week. They can looking at the stats here, they are able to force some turnovers. Looks like they're fifth in turnovers. It looks like maybe getting that a little bit off. But as far as how they performed, it looks like they're average in most other categories here that I'm seeing. And I'm very hopeful that they can put together some sort of performance to stop this 49ers offense. And I don't really know what to expect from them either. I just know that they've been good enough to win games. Yeah. I can't say that I've watched a lot of 49ers, but I am hopeful that Russell Wilson will pull up some sort of magic, because that's what it's going to take for them to win.
Right. The 49ers haven't really been tested this year. They got the Steelers early in the year, the Bengals obviously, the Browns. The Rams have really underperformed, to preseason standards. The Panthers, the Redskins, the Cardinals, they really haven't played. I shouldn't say they really haven't played. They haven't played a playoff team yet. The Rams have a chance, but, the NFC West is absolutely stacked. So there's a very good chance the Rams miss the playoffs this year. The Panthers, as well as Kyle Allen, is done for them. They're on the outside looking in the NFC South with the way New Orleans is dominating. So this is really going to be San Francisco's first big test. They get the Cardinals the week after, but then they get an absolute gauntlet of the Packers, Ravens, and Saints before they once again in Week 17 finish out with the Seahawks. And so this is going to be,
a tone setter.
Yeah, it's a tone setter, a milestone game for the 49ers. And for me personally, I do have Seattle coming out on top in this one. And if it's, it's in San Francisco, which is definitely going to make it a little more difficult. But just the way, Russell Wilson plays, the 49ers haven't really been tested yet. I think that bodes well for Seattle.
I would agree. I mean, the play of Russell Wilson this year has just been outstanding. And as Bobby said, it would be a huge compliment to his MVP campaign if he's able to pull out this win. It is in San Francisco, so that's definitely a note. But I just love the Seattle offense this year. Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, the play of Chris Carson has been
big for my
very
fantasy
impressive.
team.
So
huge.
I would agree that Seattle is going to be able to win this Monday night game, but it should be highly contested.
Oh yeah, it's going to be a great one for sure. Bobby, what do you think?
I'm going to go a little bit different route. I think the 49ers will pull it out in a tight one. I just think that their defense will be a little bit too much in the end, and I think Gucci Garap, as you dubbed him, will be able to do just enough against the Seahawks defense to get it done. But don't count Russell Wilson out in the last few minutes of the game. I could see it going either way. But if I had
it's a flip the coin type of game.
If I had to choose a team that I thought would win, I'd say the 49ers, maybe by 3 tops.
Okay, well. Now we get to debut our new segment
Absolutely.
that we did not have last week. This segment is called the Hometown Hero. And for this segment, me, Dennis, Bobby will pick a player from one of our favorite teams who had, a pretty solid performance, standout performance compared to everyone else. Does anyone really want to start off this week? Dennis, go for it.
Yeah, I can start us off. I'm going to actually talk about a team I have not yet talked about.
Okay.
In the Xavier Musketeers basketball squad. So
okay.
Bengals were on a bye this last week, so couldn't pick anybody there. And the UC Bearcats gave me a heart attack in both football and basketball.
And they really didn't have a standout performance basketball-wise.
They did not. It was tough to come by basketball-wise. Football-wise, I would say was very lackluster. Losing to Eastern Carolina.
Yikes.
So, Xavier Musketeers, my go-to basketball team outside of the UC Bearcats, playing in the Big East, and they actually picked up a win against Jacksonville. So that's not a very reputable opponent, not at all. So not going to sit here.
That must have been a riveting game.
And make an argument for the Jacksonville Dolphins, actually.
Oh,
yes, the Jacksonville Dolphins, but. That being said, I'm going to go with none other than Tyreek Jones for Xavier, who put up a double-double, 17 points. He was 7 and 8 from the field, 3 of 5 from the free throw line.
Yeah.
And he picked up 11 rebounds on the day as well. So just a solid performance. A senior forward out of Connecticut, I believe.
Okay.
So I'll be interested to watch Xavier basketball this year. I think that they're going to be quite solid. And so that'll be definitely an interesting thing to keep an eye on. But I'm going to go with Tyreek Jones.
Yeah, so my hometown hero is coming from none other than the Michigan State Spartans, even though they were in a defeated effort this week. If you talk to the boys, both Derek and Dennis will tell you that my favorite player on the team is none other than Marcus Bingham Jr.
For sure.
Right.
And
the Slim Reaper, baby.
The Slim Reaper, as I like to call him. And the man had a breakout game this week. Really, really quite something special for him. I mean, he's a guy that I've said is going to have to come along if the Michigan State Spartans want to have a successful season going forward. I think he's so dynamic, big guy, can shoot really from anywhere. I thought if he beefed up a little bit, gained some weight, put on some muscle, he would be successful. And it looks like he had started that trend very well. He had 17 minutes in this last game, but he was producing with 7 points and 6 boards off the bench, which for him is a great showing. And his defensive effort was much improved compared to last year, where he was really only getting in garbage time because he was kind of a ragdoll in the post because he was very
just too lanky.
He was too lanky, not enough meat on the bones, if I may say.
Yeah.
But a solid showing from him, and look for him to contribute going forward.
Yeah, the talent's there, the potential is there. He. Going through high school, he was pretty much a guard. That's why he's got such a sweet stroke as a big man. I think, I agree. Marcus Bingham's definitely going to have to step up and provide some really quality minutes off the bench if MSU wants to have a successful campaign this year. And for me, my hometown hero, number 55, shooting guard from my University of Michigan Wolverines, none other than Eli Brooks, baby.
Eli Brooks.
Out of Spring Grove, Pennsylvania.
Finally shaved the stash.
Remember the name Eli Brooks. The guy, last year with Beeline, never really got a chance to play that much as a sophomore. But this year, Juwan Howard's going to have him, play a much bigger role as, the starting 2 guard. And he went out and dropped 24 points.
Great work.
24 points, 3 assists, 2 rebounds. But his biggest, contribution, yes, thank you, was in the 3-point shooting department.
Oh.
Shot 5 of 11 from 3. Also came through with some clutch free throws at the end when the game was getting way too close for comfort. 5 of 6 from the free throw line. And he was a really big part in that win, and I expect that trend to keep moving forward. It was an absolutely career day, first time ever scoring in double digits even. If that just says, anything about his season last year. Really just a backup role player even to David DeJulius. But this year, Eli's he's gonna show some people what he's made of this year, and I think he's gonna be a big contributor for us.
Talk about another guy that put on some weight, put on some muscle. Eli Brooks came a long way. He got rid of that undershirt. looks like he got a few tattoos as well, which we always love to see.
Yeah, for sure.
But nothing I can take away from him. Even as a Michigan State fan, he played well.
Yeah, so that was our first installment of the Hometown Hero segment. We're gonna,
original idea.
Yep, an original idea from us, as most of our ideas are, including the next one, which will be installment number 2 of the Right Bench Ballers, our favorite segment.
Every week.
This was one of the segments that we thought of that really got this podcast rolling. Last week, we had some pretty standout performances from the Right Bench Ballers. Andy Isabella from the Arizona Cardinals. Hunter Renfrow from the Oakland Raiders, and Marvin Hall Jr. for the Detroit Lions. Those were last week's inaugural winners of the Right Bench Baller Award, given to them by us. This week, anyone got someone who wants to go first?
I'll start it off, I guess.
Let's go, Bobby.
Yeah, go.
Last week, we kind of briefly discussed the Golden State Warriors and how we thought their season was going.
Yes, we did.
They've even since then, they've been hit by the injury bug even more.
Yeah, getting the news that Steph Curry's injury is going to keep him out longer than expected. Might not even return this year.
Yep. Indeed. And in my Right Bench Baller, I only call him a right bench baller because the man was projected to be spending most of his time on the bench this season. But just because of injury, he's really gotten an opportunity to rise and shine. And it's none other than Eric Pascal from the Golden State Warriors, former Villanova basketball player. He was taken actually in the second round with the 41st pick in the NBA draft. So not necessarily expected to come out and have immediate impact. I mean, many players that draft in the first round even don't have great impact if you know the NBA.
Sekou Doumbouya for the Detroit Pistons. He's not even probably going to play this year just until he gets acclimated to the NBA pace of play, but keep going.
But, Eric Pascal has really made the most of his opportunity. He played on November 4th. They played the Trailblazers, and he had 40 minutes in that game, in which he logged 34 points on 11 of 19, shooting with 13 boards, double-double there.
Wow.
I mean, that is just absolutely insanity against a great, I would say not an outstanding opponent, but a good opponent in the Trailblazers.
Yeah.
Dropped another 19 on the 6th against the Rockets, so they're a contender. And then the game before that played the very poor Charlotte Hornets and had 25 as well. So really just had a great stretch recently. And kudos to him for making the most of even being a second round pick, coming in there, second round pick in this most recent draft actually,
yes.
And coming in and making an immediate performance at the small forward position for the Warriors and working his way into the starting lineup. Even though obviously they've got a lot of injuries, but kudos to him, and he is my right bench baller.
Yeah, I'll go next.
Let's hear it.
My right bench baller of the week, also from the NBA, the Chicago Bulls point guard Kobe White. He's the backup to Tomas Satoransky, and he's the rookie out of UNC.
North Carolina, probably.
Don't sleep on the hair, baby. He's got a mean flow.
You might remember that draft video where he couldn't believe that his teammate had just been drafted.
That's right. Yes, indeed. Big player for UNC last year in their run at the NCAA tournament last year. But Kobe White against the Lakers on November the 5th in a loss, unfortunately, for the Bulls, dropped 18 points, a pretty respectable number. Shot 7 of 15, 1 of 5 from 3.
Yikes.
Chipped in. Yeah, that's not entirely what you want to see, but made 3 of 3 free throws, chipped in 5 boards and 4 assists, and a steal as well. And I think, when we look at the right bench baller, we just look at a standout performance from a guy who's not expected to have standout performances.
Indeed.
And so when, saw that Kobe White really played a crucial part in that Bulls game, had to give some props and put some respect on his name.
Indeed.
He's probably going to be a little bit underlooked as a rookie, or overlooked, I should say, as a rookie this year, not in the starting lineup.
Especially at the logjam the Bulls have a point guard.
Exactly. They got a lot of pretty quality guards out there.
Tomas Satoransky, Chris Dunn.
Zach LaVine's a good guard as well who can handle the ball. But yeah, Kobe White, he's only averaging 11 points, 2 assists this year, but he had a pretty quality performance, and I thought I would give him recognition this week as my right bench baller.
Fantastic. Well, I'm going to take us back to the NFL.
Okay.
This might be a trend throughout this podcast this time of year, but I'm going to take us back to Kansas City, and none other than Damian Williams, running back out of Oklahoma, who's really been playing in the shadow of Deshaun Shady McCoy, might I say, for most of this season, but absolutely exploded this week versus Minnesota. 125 yards and a touchdown on the ground, a few yards through the air as well. His previous season high was 30 yards, and that was against Green Bay, a loss at Green Bay.
Okay.
And so he exploded this week with the struggles, I would say, of LaShawn McCoy out in Kansas City. This kid is really becoming what Kansas City is expecting, and I'll be interested to see if that trend continues. But last week, outstanding performance for a guy who hasn't really done much with his opportunity so far.
Yeah, especially considering, the loss of Kareem Hunt for the Chiefs. Williams is going to have to be a guy, hopefully in the future, that they can, rely on as their number one back. But I think, as we wrap up the right bench ballers segment here, I think that about wraps it up for us here.
Indeed.
Episode
2.
Yes, episode 2. We'll be back next week for episode 3. Bob, you got something to say?
One last thing. Don't forget to follow us or subscribe at Spotify, Podbean,
iTunes,
YouTube. Please find us at all those platforms and make sure that you drop a like, drop a follow,
drop a comment, 5-star ratings,
all that.
You'll love to see it.
We're trying to get this thing off the ground, and we'd love to share our story with as many people as possible.
For sure. Yeah, I agree. Thanks for adding that. Dennis, you got anything you want to say, or are you good?
I'm all good over here.
Alrighty. Well, in that case, thank you once again for listening. We could not do it without you guys as our listeners. Without you guys, we can't share our conversations with anyone. So thank you. As you said, leave a like, leave a comment, and we will see you next week. Shall we do it?
Absolutely.
All right. On 3. 1, 2, 3. Peace.